Hello, readers. Welcome to reading class with me, Miss Taylor. I'm glad you're here. Alrighty, so we are going to continue reading Knights and Castles, Fact Tracker. All right, so we've read about the Middle Ages. We've read about the Age of Castles. We've read about protecting the castle and castle life. Now we are going to skip over chapter 5, and today we are going to read together chapter 6. But if you're thinking, oh, Miss Taylor, I wanted to read chapter 5 about festivals and fairs of the Middle Ages, then you can go ahead and pause the video and read chapter 5 on your own. If you don't want to pause the video now, you can go back and read chapter 5 when you have a little free time later today. So we are going to read chapter 6 together today. And then your assignment is going to be to read chapter 7 on your own. We'll have one more little Google form to do, just 5 questions. And then tomorrow there's no school. Tomorrow is Friday, February 12th. Hey, the teachers have school. So the teachers have some meetings and classes to go to. So that's good. We'll keep learning. But there's no school for you on Friday, and there's also no school on Monday because Monday is President's Day. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to, if you'd like to, it's kind of optional, but I would encourage you to read the rest of this book on your own over the weekend, because next week we are going to start reading King Arthur together. So if you do want to do a little bit of extra reading this weekend, you can do that. All right, but for today, we're going to look at chapter 6, Knights, on page 63. All right, so let's find page. There it is, page 63. Please follow along with me on page 63. All right, and again, this is going to help us to really start to understand what was happening during the Middle Ages and the time of knights and castles, because King Arthur is all about knights and castles, tournaments and chivalry and, excuse me, all those important things. Chapter 6, Knights. Medieval minstrels, musicians, often sang songs that told stories of heroes and their adventures. The heroes were all very brave and bold and fair. The heroes were knights. Knights had different names in different countries. In Spain, they were called caballeros. Caballeros. In Germany, they were called Ritters. In France, they were called, I'm going to look at the pronunciation here, Chevaliers. So different names in different countries. Cool. All these words mean the same thing. Horsemen. Knights were soldiers who fought on horseback. Makes sense? Becoming a knight. Wait a second. Over here, Annie is saying, not fair. Only boys could become knights. Ooh, that's not very fair or just, is it? Now, today, anyone can be anything they want to be. But back in the Middle Ages, it wasn't always so fair. It took years of training to become a knight. It also took a lot of money. Horses and armor were very expensive, so most knights came from wealthy, noble families. A boy who wanted to be a knight started his training when he was about 7 years old. Some of you are 7 or 8. At that time, his parents sent him to live in another lord's castle. He became a page. So the first step in becoming a knight is called a page. A page served the lord's family their meals. He learned manners. He learned battle skills by fighting with wooden swords and riding on wooden horses. So kind of like playing. He's learning by pretending and playing. Wow, Jack could be a page. When a page was about 14, he became a squire. A squire was an apprentice to a knight, sort of like an assistant or helper. A squire took care of his knight's horses. He polished his knight's weapons and armor. If a knight were called to war, his squire went with him. A squire had to be ready to fight beside his knight on the battlefield, so he practiced fighting with real swords and other weapons. Most important, he practiced his horsemanship. Horsemanship means horse riding skill. A squire had to learn to ride a horse without using his hands. On the battlefield, he would need both hands to hold his weapon and shield. Most squires became knights at about age 21. They were usually knighted at a dubbing ceremony. A squire could be dubbed or knighted by his father or by the knight who trained him. A squire from a very important family might even be dubbed by the king himself. Oh, and here's a picture, and this looks like the king. He is making this person a knight, and that's called dubbing. They would kind of tap on each shoulder. And the knight would have to swear loyalty to the king. At the dubbing ceremony, the new knight promised to be brave and loyal. He swore to protect his lord, his king, and his church, becoming a knight. So step one was being a page, and then a squire. And then you had the dubbing ceremony. And finally, you became a knight. Was it like 7 years old? You're a page. Do you remember how old you were when you became a squire? Yeah, about 14. And then a knight? About 21. Yeah. Ooh, we learned about this in history. The Code of Chivalry. In the later Middle Ages, knights also promised to have good manners. They had to be fair to all people. They had to protect the weak. They had to be generous. They had to honor and respect women. These rules came to be called the Code of Chivalry. Ooh, we can see here where that word comes from. Chivalry comes from the French word cheval, which means horse. Cool. In real life, knights could be ruthless and cruel, but the minstrels' songs of heroes reminded them of the Code of Chivalry and how they had promised to behave. Turn the page to read about the most famous knights of all. It's King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. So we get to read all about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table next week, but this is just giving us a little bit of background knowledge, a little bit of information so we can build our schema, so we can understand a little bit more about what's happening in the Robin Hood stories. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. During the Middle Ages, the most popular stories about knights were tales of King Arthur and his kingdom of Camelot. They were make-believe stories, but they may have been based on a real king who lived in Britain in the 6th century. So it might be based off of a real king, but some of it's probably made up fiction. One of the most famous stories about King Arthur is that of the Sword in the Stone. That's chapter 1 for next week. In the story, the people of Britain find a stone with a sword thrust into it. Writing on the stone says, "Whoever can pull the sword from this stone is the true king of Britain." That means England. A young page named Arthur is the only one who can pull the sword out of the stone. The person who put the sword in the stone was Merlin, a magician. After Arthur is crowned king, Merlin becomes his most trusted advisor. Merlin helps Arthur start the Knights of the Round Table. Arthur's knights gather at a table that is round so that each knight's place has the same worth. Yeah, everybody at the round table is equal. No one is in a better spot than the other. They're all equal, like in a circle. Two of the most famous Knights of the Round Table are Sir Lancelot and Sir Galahad. They both lived by the highest ideals of the Code of Chivalry. There's Lancelot, Galahad. Oh, there's the Round Table. See how everybody has a spot that's just like the other? So all equal. Two important women in the stories of King Arthur are Queen Guinevere and Morgan Le Fay. Guinevere is the beautiful wife of King Arthur. Morgan Le Fay is the half-sister of King Arthur. She learns magic skills from Merlin, such as how to fly and how to change her shape. Ooh, she's like a shapeshifter. Ooh. So this is a little information about what we're going to read next week. Tales of King Arthur. All right, so second graders, what you're going to do is continue reading chapter 7 on your own. And after you read chapter 7, you're going to complete the online assignment. There's a little Google form with just like 5 questions for you to answer. And then, like I said, there's no school tomorrow, so there'll be no reading assignment. But if you would like to, I would encourage you to read the rest of this story. We're not going to read the rest of it together, but it has a lot of really interesting information. So after chapter 7, and in the end of chapter 7, you'll notice some information about coats of arms. And we've learned about this in history too. And so make sure you check that out, some cool information. Chapter 8 is all about weapons. So I know some of you are very interested in these kinds of swords and things like that. Some really cool things about tournaments you could read about. Chapter 9, this is about battles and sieges. Like if a castle was under siege, it was under attack. And it has some really interesting information about how castles protected themselves and then also attacked when armies attacked castles. So learn about catapults and battering rams, all kinds of interesting information. Ooh, the dungeon. Oh dear, you don't want to go into the dungeon. And then chapter 10 talks about the end of the age of castles, kind of the end of the Middle Ages. So if you're wondering, what happened at the end of this time, you can finish reading that chapter. And then at the very back of the book, it has some more ideas for further research. There's some ideas for books, and there's some museums. Oh, here's some other books you could check out. Might be cool to go check those out at the library. Some different museums, and you could probably go to their websites, some of these website museums. There's also some DVDs and movies about knights and castles, or the History Channel, and also the internet. There's some good websites to learn more about knights and castles. And Jack and Annie say, good luck. All right. Oh, and I should mention in the back of the book, there's this cool index where if you were interested in one specific topic about the Middle Ages, you could go back here and look. Like, for example, if you really wanted to learn more about knights, I know we just read the chapter about knights, but if you were like, if I just really want to know the most information about knights, I could find it in here. Let's see. And it's alphabetical. So it starts with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. There it is. So here's some information about knights. Becoming a knight, page 64. Modern knights. Like, what do knights look like now? Because even today, people are knights. They're just a little different than they were in the Middle Ages. Okay, so that is a cool resource. And one more thing, I mentioned this before. This is the companion story. This is the fictional story, The Knight at Dawn. So that might be also a cool thing for you to check out. All right, second grade readers, that is all for today. I will see you next week, and we will start King Arthur, the Tales of King Arthur. Where is my tales? There it is. We will start reading next week. All right, have a wonderful long weekend, scholars, and I will see you again soon.